Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to dig into something called learned helplessness. It might ring a bell if you've ever felt, like your efforts just aren't making a difference.
hmm
We've got some material here, and the plan is to explore what it is, where it came from, its impact, and maybe what can be done about it.
Exactly.
So have you ever had that feeling like you're spinning your wheels and getting nowhere? That sense that, well, what you do doesn't really count.
Yeah, that's kind of the core feeling we're talking about. We'll look at the definition, its roots in psychology research, how it actually shows up in life, and crucially, how to maybe build up a sense of control instead.
Okay, great. Let's unpack it then. Learned helplessness. Where did this idea even begin?
Well, it's interesting. It actually came out of the early work of psychologist Martin Seligman. Now, our sources don't detail the exact experiments, but essentially,
Okay.
he observed that when subjects were repeatedly put in situations where they couldn't control bad outcomes, they later acted passively,
Yeah.
even when they could have escaped or changed things.
Huh. So they sort of learned that trying was pointless.
That's the idea. They seem to learn that their actions were, well, futile.
So they just gave up.
Oh.
How do we actually define it then? Learned helplessness.
Okay, so basically learned helplessness is a state of passivity.
Yeah.
It comes from being repeatedly exposed to negative stuff you can't avoid or change.
Right.
The key thing is developing this belief, this feeling, that your actions just don't affect what happens. And that perceived lack of control leads to the passive behavior.
That makes a lot of sense. If you keep trying and nothing you do changes the outcome, I guess you'd eventually stop trying. How does this actually play out, like, in everyday life?
Oh, you see it in different places.
Yeah.
Think about a kid who struggles with spelling, right? Despite practicing. If they keep failing tests,
Yeah.
they might just develop this learned helplessness and, stop trying. Even if maybe a different way of studying could help them improve.
Ah, okay.
Or maybe a student who bombs the first couple of quizzes in a class, they might just decide, what's the point?
Uh,
And not even study for the final.
right, they feel doomed anyway.
Exactly. Or in a job, someone whose projects keep failing might just lose motivation.
Huh.
They might not put effort into new things, even if those could succeed.
Those are really clear examples. So this isn't just feeling a bit down or discouraged. It sounds like it goes deeper.
Absolutely. It's strongly linked to negative mental states.
Hmm.
Things like depression, anxiety, that persistent feeling of being powerless.
Mm.
It can be a really significant factor in those conditions.
Wow. And is this just a people thing, or do we see it elsewhere, like in animals?
Yeah, the sources do confirm that. Animals can definitely experience it too. Research has shown that if animals face negative things, they can't escape.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, they often won't even try to avoid those things, even when an escape route is right there.
That's quite something. So, okay, what about our mindset, our beliefs? Why doesn't everyone who faces setbacks end up like this?
That's a great question. Your mindset is really key here. Someone with what's called a fixed mindset, the belief that your abilities are just set in stone.
Right, like you're either good at something or you're not.
Exactly. That person is more susceptible. Repeated failure just confirms that belief for them and makes them less likely to keep trying. It's kind of the opposite of a growth mindset, where you believe effort can make a difference.
Ah, I see. So it can become a bit of a self-fulfilling cycle then.
Definitely.
So can we break out of it? Can learned helplessness be reversed?
Yes, thankfully. Interventions often focus on creating experiences where the person does feel successful and in control.
Oh.
Well, therapy techniques like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, can help people challenge those negative thought patterns, the it's no use thoughts, and reframe their sense of agency.
Okay.
And in education, maybe breaking big tasks down into smaller, more manageable steps
Mhm.
can help build confidence and a feeling of accomplishment.
It seems almost counterintuitive, but could people, like parents or teachers, even with good intentions, accidentally make it worse?
That's a really critical point. Yes, they can. For instance, if a parent always jumps in to solve a child's problems immediately,
Before the kid gets a chance to try.
right, that can actually hinder the child from developing their own problem-solving skills and that crucial sense of control. Or setting expectations that are always way too high, leading to constant failure, or even too low, not providing enough challenge.
That's tricky. So how do we tell the difference between learned helplessness and just, having a tough time but bouncing back? Resilience, I guess.
Yeah, that's the key distinction. Resilience is about bouncing back from adversity
Yeah.
while still believing you can eventually succeed or influence things.
Yeah.
Learned helplessness is characterized by giving up, by that core belief that your efforts are futile.
Gotcha.
And this links back to something called self-efficacy.
Self-efficacy.
Yeah, it's basically your belief in your own ability to succeed at specific tasks. Having strong self-efficacy is a huge factor in resilience and in overcoming learned helplessness. Building that belief, maybe through those smaller achievable goals we mentioned, is really powerful.
This has been really illuminating. So I guess the big takeaway is that understanding this concept, learned helplessness, it helps us spot these patterns, maybe in ourselves, maybe in others,
Exactly.
and hopefully points us towards ways to build up that sense of empowerment instead of passivity.
Precisely. Just recognizing the roots and the signs allows us to focus on building back that vital sense of control and agency. It's about feeling like you can make a difference.
Okay. Well, thinking about all this, what's maybe one small shift you, the listener, might consider in how you approach challenges now? Definitely giving me some food for thought. Thanks for this deep dive.